Anybody here believe that?
Yes.
I think you do. All right. Everybody good?
Yes.
All right. It's a lighter crowd. I always say, anybody got to start the place, you know, before I keep going? Anybody started off or what? Richard ain't here. I always put Richard on the spot. He had a meeting, so. All right, I've got one. Don't worry. I'll say thanks to everybody that came with us Sunday. We went to the Cross Sunday, and man, it was sure I had a big time. So it was fun. It was fun. I'm pretty sure there's some folks heard some stuff they hadn't heard before. It's always good to take backup with you, in case you need help getting out. No, they're good up there. I'm just teasing. But I say, I used to go places a lot more than I do now. I think I make people nervous now, so I don't get as many invites. They're afraid what I might say, or I'm gonna pull the covers back and. Oh well. But it's good to go, and when I got to go, and so when you go somewhere where they're not hearing you every week, you can kind of just pull it all out. I think I preached everything I ever knew. And so, it kind of now, ever since then, I've been thinking back all this stuff, I've been here 9 years now. I mean, that's crazy to think about. So I've just been revisiting all kinds of stuff we've done and been, and just how good this Word is, and things that I've taught out of before in the past, but now I'm in a higher place, and going back and looking at some of the same things, it's just good. And so I was thinking about how much power there is in hearing, and so I just want to talk about that tonight, hearing, because people have heard stuff that they hadn't heard before. And I say this, Romans 10:17, you guys hear me say it all the time, faith comes by hearing. That's what the Bible says. Faith comes by hearing. Hearing by the Word of God. Real translation is not really the Word of God. It's more so the Word of Christ. So there's a difference. You can say faith comes by hearing, hearing by the Word of Christ. It's more of a new covenant connotation. It's like, you can say with the Word of God, it's the Word of God, right? Well, you could read the Old Covenant and say the law was given and the ground opened up and swallowed 3,000 people. 3,000 people died the day the law was given. Now, that don't build faith, does it? Hearing by the Word of Christ builds faith. What they just sang about, that he who knew no sin became sin, so that Jason who knew no righteousness might become righteous. It's no longer about your performance. It's no longer about what you do and don't do, and all how good you are. It's not based on that. That builds faith, because now I'm qualified. By hear?
Yes.
So it comes by hearing, which means a lot to me, because I have the privilege and the honor to have a microphone, and I get heard. People watching this on live and World Wide Web, and YouTube, and all kinds of stuff I don't even know about. I get the opportunity to be heard, so it's a big deal to me to say that faith comes by hearing. You can hear something tonight that will cause faith to come. I'll say, if you want your faith to go somewhere it hadn't been before, you might need to hear something you ain't been hearing. Now, our old traditional and religious selves, whenever somebody comes up with something you ain't heard before, you say, well, Granddaddy didn't believe that way. Well, if Granddaddy could come from where he is now and tell you what to believe, he would say, you need to believe way higher than what I believe. Amen. Don't get stuck in tradition. Don't get stuck in somebody else's level of revelation, because it's intended to go higher. God's a generational God. He likes doing stuff in generations. He intends on this generation to go higher than the last generation. He intends on the next generation to go higher than this generation. Now we can either root them on and cheer them on and encourage them, or we can be offended. Come on. So don't just growl and resist anytime somebody might come up with something that you ain't heard before. First of all, check it in the Bible. Is it the Word? And I don't mean just in one verse or one page. The real revelations of God you can find on every page of this book. Don't just take my word for it. I come up with all kinds of stuff y'all ain't heard. Yeah. I just try and shake you most of the time. Why? But But I'm telling you, let me read you something. You get me going here. This is in Mark 5. Mark chapter 5. I'm going to read you this. You've heard this a long time ago. I ain't been in this in a long time, but it's really good. I like it. So, Mark chapter 5, listen to this. Jesus is going about doing all kinds of good stuff, and then here's this woman. It says, a woman, I say verse 25, Mark 5:25. A woman who had an issue of blood for 12 years, a hemorrhage, and had endured much at the hands of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. Verse 27. After hearing about Jesus, she came up in the crowd behind him and touched his cloak, his garment. For she thought, if I just touch his garments, I will get well. If I just touch his garments, I will get well. Immediately the flow of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Immediately Jesus, perceiving in himself that the power proceeding from him had gone forth, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my garments? And his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing in on you, and you say, who touched me? And he looked around to see the woman who had done this, but the woman, fearing and trembling, aware of what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. I like this, because here's this woman is. And so it says this woman, she's in a pretty bad shape. She's had this issue for 12 years. She's been to all the doctors. She's spent all of her money. She's in a pretty hopeless situation. 12 years. We read over it like it's a verse, but you think about it, 12 years. Been dealing with something for 12 years. That's a long time. And in these days and times, even worse than now. For one, she's got all these strikes against her. She's a woman. In this day and time, you know, before Jesus came, women were property. They were beat down. They were suppressed. They were not looked highly upon. I don't know how to even explain it all, but I mean, she was a woman, so she had that against her. She was not going to get the help that a man would get. All right, so not only that, she was bleeding, and she was living in. Here she is in Israel, and the Jew were living under the law, right? Anybody that's bleeding is condemned unclean. You're considered unclean, so you can't even really be in the public. You can't sleep with your husband. You can't be around. You can't be in the. You know, you got all these restrictions saying you're condemned unclean. You got, you know, you're ostracized from your family, from your spouse. You got all this. Not to mention she's broke because she spent all the money she had on doctors trying to get well. I'm telling you, she's in a pretty rough spot. I'd say she's desperate, wouldn't you? Yeah. I'd say, you know, I know she is. I know she is. But then verse 27 said that in the shape she's in the state seemingly hopeless to herself, I would say. Seemingly hopeless says this, after hearing about Jesus. After hearing, I say, hearing something could cause you, apparently, is what it did for her. It caused this hopeless woman, something came alive inside of her, and whatever it is she heard, it started working inside of her and created some kind of power to get her up out of her hopelessness. And she said within herself, it said, my Bible, New American Standard says she thought in herself. Some of them say she said to herself, or the connotation, the language there really means is she kept repeating this to herself. She kept saying it to herself, inside of herself. It's in her mind. She just kept rehearsing it and saying it over and over and telling her, reassuring herself. That's what she's doing. And it birthed out of something that she heard. She heard something. And this hearing created some kind of power in her to make her rise up and say, I will get well. I'm going to go down. If I just touch the hem of his garment, I'm going to get well. And that belief in her created some kind of power to cause her, even though she was a woman, she'd get in big trouble for walking down there and frogging right into a group of men, pushing her way right in there. That alone, she'd be in big trouble. I mean, grab the rocks. Not to mention, she's breaking the law because she's bleeding. She can't even be touching those people. She got all that against her. She knows all that. Broke, humiliated, ostracized, separated, all in this shape. But she rises up and says, she keeps telling herself, if I just touch him with his garment, I'll be made well. And she goes down there and presses in on him. It doesn't matter what all's against her. It doesn't matter what the hopelessness looks like. She heard something that created that kind of drive inside of her that made her get up against all odds and go down there and get what she needed. Touched him with his garment. Touched him. I'm telling you, that kind of creates some kind of power in there. You got to understand what happened inside this woman to cause her to act this way. She didn't get up and go down there to prove she believed something. It was fruit of what she had heard. And so I would say, you know, if there's a hearing that can create that kind of power, I want to know it, don't you? I want to hear what she heard, don't you? I mean, I don't have no affliction in 12 years that I know of, or any, you know, I'm not in that bad shape, but I mean, I have been hopeless at one time. And so if that can, hearing what she heard about Jesus can create that in her, I want to know. Because I get the privilege of even being heard. If I knew what she heard, I'd tell you right now. Oh, I tell you, what did she hear? So this is Mark chapter 5, right? I thought, here Mark is, he's writing his take on all this that's going down. This is already Mark chapter 5. I'll say, well, I'll just see what she might have heard. So I went back to Mark chapter 1. Let's see what 1, 2, 3, and 4 said, what's been happening that she had a chance to hear. Alright, so I just want to look at it. Because you might be in a situation, you need to hear something. I believe that if there's something you can hear tonight, you can go out of here and never be the same. There's power in the gospel. So look here, what did she hear is what I said. What did she hear? First off, Jesus shows up on the scene and he starts gathering these disciples. You know, he starts gathering these guys up. He's going to turn the world upside down. He's got a big job ahead of him, and he's going to gather up him a team, right? And he's not getting these deacons and choir boys, and he's getting roughnecks, fishermen, and roughnecks, calloused hands, tough. I mean, I'm telling you, they're tough. You can read later on when things get thick. Oh, Peter, he pulls out a sword and whacks the guy's ear off. He didn't learn that in vacation Bible school. I'm telling you. He's after rough, tough. This is just a side commercial. Right? It's exciting to be a part because that's what he's doing now. You know, he's building a team. He's putting some stuff together to turn the world upside down. At least Southern Illinois. That's why I like here. Roughnecks, cowboys, bikers. Don't fit in nowhere else. You know why? Because we're tough. I'm going to tell you, it's commercial breaks over, right? So I'm saying, this is what she's hearing. There's something different about this guy. He ain't just this same old religious stuff going on that he's going to tell me to go out and clean for 7 days or some nonsense, right? There's something different about this guy. She's hearing this. And then before long, here he comes along, and he goes to Peter's house, and Peter's mother-in-law has a fever, and Jesus touches her and heals the mother-in-law. Jesus heals mother-in-laws. I'm not saying that. Jesus heals mother-in-laws. Is anybody in here a mother-in-law? Yeah, so there you go. You can be healed. He's no respecter of persons. I'm telling you, this guy's different. Then listen to this. I want to read this one. Chapter 1, verse 32. Chapter 1, verse 32. When evening came, after the sun had set, they began bringing to him all who were ill and those who were demon-possessed. And the whole city gathered at the door, and he healed many who were ill with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he was not permitting the demons to speak because they knew who he was. Bringing him various kinds, didn't matter what kind, all kinds. Healing them like crazy. It's like, wow, this guy, something different about this guy. He's healing everybody. And then you go on, read, cleanse the leper. Cleanse the leper. Everybody know what leprosy is? It's a bad deal, like your body parts fall off and stuff. It's nasty. Same deal. You're condemned, unclean, and you can't be in public places, and you're kicked out of the gates, and you know your life is in the tank, hopeless. And I thought this. It says in verse 41 that he stretched out his hand and touched him. Touched the leper. That's against touched him. I wonder if she heard that. I wonder if she thought, I'm not supposed to be touched. But he touched him.
Right. That's good. That's good.
I just want to know what she heard. Then it goes on, chapter 2, healed the paralytic. Healed the paralytic and told him his sins are forgiven. What? And then he calls the tax collector. Join his group. Tax collector, the lowest of the low, the worst of the worst. Called him to join his group. And then, oh my gosh, this is where he crossed the line. Chapter 3, healed on the Sabbath. Healed on the Sabbath. This guy, I'm thinking, what's she here? This guy's healing folks on the Sabbath? Could it be that this guy right here cares more about people than what day of the week it is? Could it be that he cares more about people than, well, what day do you have church on? Well, we're on Thursday. Oh. We have church on Sunday. Well, okay, good for you. We're Fourth-day Adventists. Could it be that he's bigger than what day of the week it is?
Yes.
Could it be that he actually cares about people?
Yes.
Healed on the Sabbath. Can you imagine? Man, the nerve of this guy. I'm just wanting to know what she's heard about, right? And then chapter 4. Listen, chapter 4 is good. He starts teaching them. He starts teaching them on faith. Seed the sower and the seed, faith the size of a mustard seed, and the kingdom's like a seed. You know, all these. He starts teaching them about faith. I'm glad he did. Because I want to know how that works. I want to know more about faith. He's teaching them that because he knows ahead of time. He said, I'm getting ready to do some stuff in you, and you're going to have to know what faith is. I'm getting ready to call you some stuff, and you're not going to... Faith, look, faith is believing contrary to what your eyes see. I'm going to start calling you things. I'm going to start putting stuff in you, and it's going to be contrary to what you see, or what you feel, or what you've thought before. So he has to instill this in us. I'm going to start... You hear me telling it all the time. I'm going to start calling you righteous. Mm-hmm. You know you've been made righteous?
Yes.
They sang it. They sang it, nobody gets mad. If I tell it, everybody gets mad. You've been born again? Yes. All your sin was placed on Jesus. All His righteousness is placed on you.
Amen. Yes.
Has nothing to do with you and your performance. Congratulations. You've been born again. You're now qualified to have life with God. You can walk with Him, talk with Him. He's now your friend. Jalen, He's now your friend.
Awesome.
Yeah, life with God. Ain't that cool?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. You've been made right with God. Now, do you have evidence of that? Do your eyes see that? Does your neighbor or your wife? No. No? That's why it's by faith. Because you can't prove it. You don't have proof of it. I'm not righteous because I have proof of it.
Good, Jason. Good.
In fact, the evidence will say otherwise. I'm righteous by faith. And when I believe Him by faith, then He starts making that a reality in my life. See, this is why He's teaching them this. I'm going to start calling you healed. Now, the doctor may not say so, and the test may not say so, and your even body, whatever pains you got might not even say so, but I'm going to start calling you that anyway.
Yes.
He's not calling us what we were, what He sees. He's calling us what He wants us to be. Bunch of nonsense, all these mean preachers talking about you bunch of sinners. Well, the whole deal, the new covenant, you are what you believe you are. If I stand here every week and talk about you being a big sinner, when you believe you're a sinner, you believe you're a sinner, because I'm always telling you what a sinner you are. You go out there believing you're a sinner. Well, I wonder what you perform. Rocket science, ain't it? Well, if we start believing we've been made right with God, What if we start believing we're the righteousness of God?
That's right.
What if we start believing in the gift of righteousness, that there's no sin on my record? He'll never be angry with me again. He said he's forgot it.
That's right.
It's been cast in the sea of forgetfulness as far as the east is from the west. We're the ones always talking about it. He don't even bring it up.
Right.
The accuser's the one always bringing it up. The liar, he's the one trying to keep you minded in it, you know. I heard one this week. Gosh, we hear some stuff. Said, you think God's just, he ain't about making you comfortable? I thought, Jesus called him the Comforter. That's just one of his names. I'm not saying every situation and every day we go through is comfortable, but my goodness, don't put it on him. I don't know how I get on all that. Faith. He's calling us. He's teaching on faith, you know, teaching this. I want to know. Listen to this. Then he calmed the sea. Now, all right, all this other stuff, I don't know how he did all that, and okay, healed folks, and I don't know, maybe just power in the mind or whatever else. You could maybe talk yourself out of that. I don't know. But calmed the sea. He stood up and told the storm to get, and it obeyed him. He called it. You want to see this? Told us. He actually called the storm peace. Be still. He called it what he wanted it to be, and then told it what it. He said, "Peace, be still." And even the waves and the wind obeyed him. Wow. Man, wow is all I can say about that. Then the whole reason for the storm was trying to keep him from the demoniac over there. He goes over and he casts all legions of devils out of this guy. Legions of devils out of this guy, cured him and all this, and got him in his right mind on all that. And all that's happened just up to chapter 5. And so there, I'm thinking, this is what she's hearing. I'm thinking, you know what we need to be hearing? We need to be hearing about this stuff. We need to be hearing about Jesus.
Amen.
I'm tired of American Christianity, and our idea of what God is and who God is and what God's like is based on everything but Jesus. We've based it on history. We've based it on our circumstances. My goodness, we've based more of it on Job than we have Jesus.
That's the truth.
What if we heard about Him?
Yes.
And what He's really like? And understand who God is and what God's like by looking at Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the exact representation. You see, I see me. Jesus didn't say. Writer of Hebrews said. He's the exact representation of the Father. Exact representation. He's the visible of the invisible. Jesus said, you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Yep.
Come on, we believe a lot of stuff about God that you can't find in the life of Jesus. I don't know about you. I form my opinion of God based on a bunch of religious mess, and this didn't work and that didn't work, and so it must be God's will, and all kinds of messed up situations. And we've watched people. We've formed our opinions of God by looking at religious people. Man, God's a whole lot better than He's getting credit for.
Amen. That's right.
We find out what He's really like. What He really thinks about us. How He really works. What His heart really is and what He wants to do. We can look at the life of Jesus. Run with the roughnecks. Healed everybody that wanted healed. And when this lady heard about Him and how He is, something came alive inside of her that said, I don't care what the doctors couldn't do. I don't care what my gender says I'm supposed to be. I don't care what my condition hinders me from. I don't care what any of the naysaying and the naysaying and the who-saying. I don't care about any of that. I'm going down there and I'm going to get a hold of His garment and I will get well. She kept saying it to herself. It may not have happened right immediately. She heard one thing, maybe. Didn't happen like that. She kept hearing stuff. And she kept rehearsing it over and over in herself. I will get well. I will get well. I will get well. I will get well. Somewhere along the line, that thing became a reality to her, and it produced something in her. See, she didn't get up of her own accord. Faith works.
Amen.
Oh, I know. They'll say, faith without works is dead. You saying you don't have to do nothing. I'm saying faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. Let me put it to you where you can get it. Faith without works is dead.
Right.
Is your name Faith?
No.
The work ain't yours.
Right.
Your part is resting. We're not even necessarily faith conscious. We're grace conscious. We're hearing and looking at Him, and when we see Him, faith comes alive subconsciously. Faith does the work. Faith did the work in her. Hearing is what produced it. She didn't produce it. I'm just saying, we got to hear this. That He's able. And now I say, okay, I see how good Jesus is. I see how powerful He is. He has no limits what He can do, right? This guy's awesome. He's not judging us. He's not religious. He's not like all this stuff we grew up hearing. He's not about that. He cares about people. Cares about people. And I'm thinking, this guy's different than what we've thought. And then I get to these verses where he says, the things I do, you'll do.
Even greater.
Yes.
And even greater, yeah. Uh-oh. And then John said, 1 John 4, as He is, so are we in this world. Uh-oh. I don't know about you. I'm tired of religious Jesus and religious God and just going to church. I seen things in Mark 16 that said those that believe